What's up everybody, welcome back to the channel. Today I will be discussing Unicorn Overlord, specifically my review of the game after about 80 hours of play. I won't be diving into major spoilers, such as exactly what happens in the story, but I will be talking about minor spoilers, so just be aware of that. Now to get started, this game was developed by Vanillaware. It is an RPG that is very similar to Tactics Ogre and also games like Fire Emblem, which is kind of what got me excited for the game. And when I first got into the combat of the game, I was very surprised actually, because when I got into it, I realized it was nothing like Fire Emblem in terms of the combat, because with Fire Emblem, it's completely turn-based. How you move around the battlefield is turn-based. The actual nitty-gritty combat scenarios between units is turn-based. However, in this game, it's a lot different. Whereas when you enter the battlefield in this one, you move your units around the board in real-time fashion. However, there is a mixture of turn-based, because once you actually dive into the battles, it's a turn-based system, but you actually watch it play out, so you don't control the specific battles with your units. All the work is actually done beforehand in the menu screen. Before the combat starts in the battle, you have to decide what are my unit formations going to be and how am I going to use those units in certain situations. And how this game works gameplay-wise with the combat is that, just like in a lot of strategy games, the type of units you have really matters. So archers are good against flying units, right? So cavalry units are really good against infantry units. So all the work that you put into the combat in Unicorn Overlord is decided before battle, just like a great general would do in real life. He would be sitting on the hillside dictating the course of action for his units, where they're going to be, what they're going to consist of. And your tactics that you assign your troops is extremely important, and that can be done before battle, where each unit has a specific tactics tree that it goes down, and you select what your priorities are. So if you have a mage, for example, you could have the mage prioritize armored units, because mages are great against armor. So these are things you do all before battle that leads up to the moment, and then once you get into battle, it is a real-time system that allows you to pause. So basically you have a time limit, and once that time limit for the battle expires, you lose the game if you don't complete the objective. So it is a real-time stage. However, you can pause it just to kind of take a breather, assess where your troops are in the battle, where the enemy is, what you have to do, and you could even preview battles beforehand, which allows you to see, hey, does my unit here, does that match up well against that unit that I'm about to face? If not, now I could switch them out with another unit and have that one match up because it's a better pairing to defeat him. So, like I said, the combat is really nuanced, because it's not actually the individual battles that matter, since they're automated, but it's the overall strategy you employ once you go into the battles. That is the key to victory. So, like I said, it took a while for me to get into it, because I was going into it thinking it's like Fire Emblem combat, but it was completely different. And once I got the hook of it, though, I was completely sold, and it is a very engaging and interesting combat system. Now, one thing about the game I will say that is very similar to Fire Emblem is the social links that you have in the game. And that is represented by things such as rapport conversations. So just like in Fire Emblem, you have rapport conversations that you could build up by doing battles with your friends, eating in a tavern, giving them gifts that you find throughout the world. All of these things build your rapport with each character. And in doing so, you unlock rapport conversations, which are these really well-written, structured conversations you could have between your main character, Prince Elaine, who is who you play as throughout the entire game, and between the side characters. And what's awesome about this is that even side characters can have rapport conversations with other side characters. So it's not like everything is just focused on Prince Elaine and everyone else. It's Prince Elaine and his relationship with the other characters, plus the other characters' relationships with other characters. So it's a really great system, and it really makes you want to explore those conversations, because it brings so much depth and flavor to all the characters. And let me tell you, there are a lot of characters in this game. I mean, I lost track, honestly. There was at least 100 characters, and by doing so, some of these characters kind of get put on the back burner because they are not developed as much as some of the other characters, but I would say a majority of the characters you come across in this game are really well written, including the main protagonist himself, Prince Elaine, who had to go into hiding when he was 7 years old because General Valmore betrayed his mother, aka Queen Elenia, and overthrew her in order to become the dominant empire of Zenoira and brought it back from the ancient graves in order to take over Cornea. So Prince Elaine had to go into hiding with his trusted knight, Sir Joseph, and for the next 10 years he trained and trained to one day ascend the rightful throne that he belongs on and uproot this evil, wretched empire in Zenora from General Valmore, who is now AKA Galerius. So that's the main premise of the story, which, sounds like typical fantasy, medieval type of storylines, right? But the way they do it and the way they structure it, it keeps a great pace, and they throw just enough plot twists in there just to keep you interested. And at the end of the day, in my opinion, the thing that makes a story tick is the characters. So, like I said, Prince Elaine is a great character. He's very chivalrous, very compassionate. However, you could add depth to his character through decisions you make. So one of the great things about this game is that a lot of the enemies you come across, you have a choice at the end of the mission to execute them or not, or you could recruit them. The obvious benefit to recruiting them is that you're going to gain more power for your army and more units, which is desperately needed, especially early on in the game. However, you could also become a brutal ruler who has no mercy for his prisoners and he executes them. And I think that adds such a nice little flavor to the game and allows you to kind of roleplay a little more into that fantasy. And the cast of other main characters around Prince Elaine is really what sells this game so much, because there's this camaraderie between all the characters. Whether it's his friend Lex, who's been with him since he was a kid, who feels like he's living in Prince Elaine's shadow and feels like he's not good enough to be in his service, even though they've been friends forever. Or you have people like Sir Joseph, who is ashamed of having to have left his queen, the person he was sworn to defend. And it gives you this interesting look into a man who feels haunted by his past and wants to make it better by allowing the son of his queen to ascend the throne. So these characters just add so much life and so much interest into the story that it just really makes for a compelling experience. And the overall structure of the gameplay is such a good loop that it keeps you going for hour after hour after hour. And a lot of what you do takes place in the overworld, which is where you can explore freely. You're not really fighting enemies in the overworld. You're kind of just exploring, finding little items to, collect, things that'll help you on your journey. You will find hidden temples that will offer you better weapons and abilities. And you will always come across towns in these regions that have been oppressed by Zenora, which you can rebuild. And this is a super satisfying gameplay loop if I've ever seen one. Whereas once you liberate a town, that town now becomes accessible to deliveries. And basically what deliveries are is you give a certain amount of resources to this town, and then it goes from this run-down, broken town into this beautifully well rebuilt place that looks super cool. And you see the transition from a run-down town into an uplifted town full of life. And then you have little characters that come out and thank you for your service. And I know it's such a small thing having some random side character that has no name say, "Oh, you did a great job. Thank you so much for helping me rebuild this town." But it just, again, it adds just a little bit of flavor to the world and a little bit of life to the world, just showing you that, yes, you are the true king and you are here to help the people of this suffering nation out. And it really just makes you feel good about what you're doing. And it's such a satisfying gameplay loop, because I don't know about anyone else, but when I see enemy flags fall on the overworld and seeing my armies take back what was once ours, it's just like a satisfying thing to see all the colors of darkness fade away from the map as your colors come in and establish control again. Another thing that is so great in this game is the inclusion of class promotions. And what class promotions are is basically once you get to a certain point within the game, you unlock the ability to upgrade your character's class. And when you upgrade your character's class, not only do you get the obvious benefits of having a stronger character with better stats, you also have a character that is just oozing with so much drip. It is so satisfying, like seeing Elaine go from this regular knight into this badass who was just dripping with frigging style. And it's such a cool thing, and you could do that with pretty much any of the characters, including the mercenaries, which you can hire, which I thought was really cool, so mercenaries could get some love as well. And in addition to this, there's also a romance option. So the romance isn't super in depth like in games like Mass Effect or Dragon Age, where it's like really, really nuanced. But if you build up your rapport with characters enough, you will be able to marry them in what is called the Rite of the Covenant. And I'm not going to get too much into what that is because of spoilers for the story, but basically you can choose a person in the story, another character, to marry, and they become the future queen with you if you so choose. So it is a really cool system that allows you to build the rapport with these characters. Lastly, I would like to touch on the graphics of the game, specifically the art style. I think the art style in this game is absolutely stunning. It's fantastic. It's probably the most unique art style I've seen in a video game, minus maybe Persona. And how I would describe the art style in this game is a painting come to life. Just all the character models, the beautiful backgrounds. Anytime you get into a fight, the background will match where you are in the fight. So if you're fighting on a bridge, it'll show you in the battle a background of this beautiful vista on a bridge. Or say you're fighting near a castle, you will see the castle in the background. It is just so well done. And graphics aren't everything, but they sure as hell help if the art style is just absolutely stunning. And that is what this game has. And that's one of the things that drew me into it. So in summary, I think this is a fantastic game. There's really not much I can complain about. Maybe a couple things that I would say that are negatives is that the rapport conversations are all written and none of it is voice acted, which is a little unfortunate because, there is so many rapport conversations you could have with people that after a while it could get tiresome to read all of them, but the writing is so good that I don't really care that much. And for a small studio like Vanillaware, who I think only has like 39, 40 employees, I understand why they had to probably do that. So there's some limitations there, but overall, that's really the only complaint I have, honestly. I think everything else is pretty good. The story is very well written, the characters are great. The combat is so addicting once you get into it. The gameplay loop of reviving these towns and reclaiming them for your empire is just so satisfying. The romance system, the upgrade system, all of it just meshes together so well, and then it's put in a nice little bow by the art style, which is so unique. You look at this game and you will not mistake it for another game. It is just so beautiful, and I would recommend this game to anyone who likes RPGs, especially if you like certain turn-based real-time style games like that. It is just a great game. I would probably give it a 9.5 out of 10, give or take. I mean, it was truly, I can't find anything wrong with it. And just one more thing I would love to touch on, and again, this is such a huge thing for a small developer. I haven't encountered a single glitch in this game. Not one bug, not one thing that was wrong, not one frame hitch. It was just a flawless experience, which, as a lot of you know, is not common in the games industry now, even with big AAA titles from developers who have hundreds of developers working on their titles. They're glitchy, they're buggy, but with this game, I literally didn't encounter a single bug, and that's something to be commended. So anyway, that's all I have for you guys today. I love this game, Unicorn Overlord. It is a superb experience, one that I think you guys will enjoy if you're into this sort of stuff. And if you liked it, give me a like and a sub, and I will catch you guys next time. Have a great one. Peace.